Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Funky, and I just wanted to let you know that this week Zarif was not able to join us, but he still insisted that we record. And I gotta say, no shade towards Zarif, I love that guy, but this episode is really good. Me and BlooM have such incredible chemistry together. Our conversation was super fun. I genuinely enjoyed it, and I think you will enjoy it too. This episode is a little bit long, but it's really good, so please, feel free to listen to it as much as you want, but it's good, man. It's good. We talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about our personal lives. We're talking about Twitch. We talk about, creativity and music and art and all this philosophical bullshit. It's a blast. Anyways, I'll shut up. Listen, bye.
But it is. That's what it is.
You're solving like all these like mathematical theorems and equations all in like real time. Your brain is processing this shit like rapid fire. Like, if I do this, this will be the outcome. If this happens, this will happen. Like this guy, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and the whole time you got to think of your next dick joke that you're gonna make.
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's just hard.
It's difficult.
It is difficult. God, it's so hard being me.
Yeah, I know, right? Have I talked about how terrible?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. Today we have a very, very special guest. My friend BlooM. Say hi.
Hello, Funky. Hello, Funky's audience out here. And, they're listening to Weenie Hut Radio here.
Yeah. BlooM is do you still consider yourself a streamer?
Yeah, I would say so. I feel like I definitely am on a bit of a hiatus, which I'm sure we could talk about a little bit. But, yeah, I would say so. I'm a streamer still.
You're a streamer, and you're getting your master's degree right now, right?
That's right. Doing a master's here at university where I live. I live in Houston. I'm doing a clinical mental health program.
Damn. That's some big boy stuff, man.
They definitely sell it like it's some bigger boy stuff than it actually is. I think a lot of it ends up being more straightforward than you might expect.
Okay. Hey, what did you get your bachelor's in?
You're right. So I got my batch. I double majored. That was back in 2017. Mm-hmm. I doubled in linguistics and psychology. Right. So, and I did the linguistics track a little bit. Worked as a language teacher for a while. You actually might remember that, depending on when you started dropping by the saloon. But after that, obviously now I'm using my psych degree for the mental health program. So it's really funny how this worked out. It was 100% not planned.
What do you mean it was not planned?
So, like, I don't know. I was just a totally different kid in college. Like, I just did not know what I wanted out of anything. And so, like, my second year rolled around, and they were just kind of like, well, you have to declare a major. Like, most people do change it at some point, but you have to declare one. And at that time, I was just really into linguistics, studying language, and all the research that was going into that was really what was calling my attention at that moment. Mm-hmm. But the dean also pointed out, like, hey, you've been doing a few psych courses as well. How do you feel about that? I was like, and I was definitely interested in that as well. But he was like, actually, if we plan out your whole degree right now, you can finish both degrees if you'd like.
Damn.
And I was just kind of like, oh, funny how that's worked out. But so I just went with it. Why not? Kind of cover my bases a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's really cool, man. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, so like the linguistics thing, how does that work? Like, what is that?
So linguistics, broadly put, is the study of language, right? And it has a lot of different fields, but the main three fields that linguistics has are known as sociolinguistics, theoretical, and applied linguistics. So a little bit about which each of those are. So applied linguistics is the easiest one to explain because that's where you'd get more into language teaching and translation. These are people who know more than one language and they apply their languages in that way. sociolinguistics is a little bit more research based in that it's more the basic, what they tell you in all the classes is the basic tenet of sociolinguistics is who speaks with what language to whom and when. And so essentially it adds this, it's research into what language can communicate socially beyond just what the words you're saying mean. So for example, a concrete way you might think about this is like, do you talk to your parents the same way you talk to your homeboy, you know?
Right.
And whether that may be, so for example, in my case, I use just a different language. I speak Spanish with my parents, but but for something as simple as like language formality or what you perceive to be formal language and how you convey that to other people can be it can be a part of sociolinguistics. And it gets into some really interesting studies about how subconscious that can be, that the people are not even aware of their assumptions of their own language or of other people's language. And how they use that. Generally speaking, it's about conveying membership to a group or separation from another group. So if you go, to give you an example of this, I remember for one of my higher level sociolinguistics classes, we had to do a sociolinguistic study, and we had heard that a student in years past had done a study on Eminem, Marshall Mathers, the rapper. Because him, obviously, his whole deal is that, you know, he's a white guy and he's doing hip hop, predominantly, you know, black culture and black music. And how does his language change to convey his membership to the hip hop community when he sticks out like a sore thumb in most hip hop settings? So it was cool. So the study was like analyzing how Eminem speaks or what how Eminem raps in relation to black rappers, for example. And what they found was that so there's a whole sociolinguistic, like a language pretty much, called AAVE, African American Vernacular English. And what they found is that Eminem had higher incidences of AAVE characteristics in his speech than the average black rapper. And so what that means is kind of like, it's, you know, the hypothesis or like the explanation behind it is like, it's kind of like an overcompensation that he needs to make, which he does. And so that's kind of socioling. And then theoretical ling, or sometimes computational, is really closely tied to programming. And anytime you see like people doing things like creating predictive text softwares or any kind of machine learning related to language, that's theoretical and computational. So those are the three main ones. There's a couple of subfields, but yeah.
Dude, that's actually like so cool.
Oh, thanks, man. It's I was really interested in it for a while.
Are you still interested in it or no?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just wouldn't. I'm no longer thinking of it as a career path, you know.
Gotcha. So you're doing like psychology, like for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at this point, with just even my first semester of the master's. I don't know what. I guess this is the first time that it's gone beyond a cognitive interest. Like, it's not like my brain entirely stimulated. It's just like, it's like my heart is in it too. When I read these, no, yeah, seriously, it's been great when I've been reading the textbooks and like practicing actual counseling, you know, and trying to like, what is it like to sit in a therapy session with someone and try to help them work through their problems. That I think does something to me beyond like, oh, this is cool. Like it's beyond my brain, you know.
That's really good, man. That's so good. Like that you're actually passionate about it, you know?
Yeah, there we go. If I had to put it in a word, it's passion. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, like I'm doing IT and like cybersecurity and stuff. I don't give a shit about any of it, you know? Like, I am only doing IT because I like computers, you know, like I like stuff like that.
Right.
But this stuff is like very technical, you know, and I hate being technical, so I hate like this stuff. And I'm only doing it because you get a lot of money out of this stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's a lucrative career choice for sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think just already if you're already into like video games and streaming and all that jazz, like you definitely, I feel like there might be a lot of personal application that you could, with this knowledge, you know? So
for sure. Like it's definitely like benefited. Well, I'll say this, because I've been like a nerd my whole life, I've already known a lot of stuff. So going into the field, like I've been kind of ahead of the game. So I haven't like had to learn as much as some other people who like, you know, some of my friends who don't know shit about this stuff, they're actually doing it for like school, they're learning it and it's harder for them. So I'm kind of like at an advantage, but at the same time, I'm lazy and I'm not passionate about it. So there are like things in this industry called like certs, like certifications, which are really like wanted by employers. And since I'm not passionate about it and I can't study, like I just can't get these certs, you know, and that puts me behind compared to like some people who are like really eager to learn. Like my friends, they're getting their certs and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm at home. You know? Yeah,
I mean, I mean, especially right now, you know, I don't know how you've been dealing with, you know, the online modality of learning, you know. This episode was filmed during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, online learning, like I've always taken online classes because I work full time. I do take night classes too, but I always prefer online classes because, you know, commute and stuff, driving sucks.
Yeah.
So this was not a hard adjustment for me. But what about you?
It's you know, I've been pleasantly surprised, both in my, I guess, adaptation to it and in the quality of the education, because definitely those were the two concerns I had going into it. One is just like, I've never done this, and so I was just nervous, like, am I going to be able to successfully complete, you know, a semester where it's entirely online, you meet and do lectures with video chats and all that. But no, it's actually worked out pretty okay. I've been really happy about that. As a quick side note, actually, I remember we talked about this like when I was starting the masters, and you were telling me some of your tips for like staying organized. And
I did say that. I said get a calendar and stuff.
Yeah, that, my man, dude, ooh, I cannot tell you how thankful I've been for that. The physical calendar, it's in my room every day, cross a day off, and you get just the full month's view of like, okay, how can I organize myself? When is everything due? And so I've never once been actually worried that I was like, I'm not going to get something turned in, or I'm going to forget about something. Because definitely before starting the masters, I that was a concern I had, that it would come up that I'd forget an assignment or a quiz or whatever. And, but no, that has not happened thanks to your great tips.
Yeah, I think that's like really underlooked. Is that the word? Underlooked? What is the word? Underrated? Underrated,
overlooked, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, overlooked, yeah. I'm like combining two things that don't. Anyways, it's a super underrated tactic is physically writing stuff down. So like people always have like reminders on their phones and stuff, but like how often do you get a reminder and you just swipe it away, you know?
Oh, absolutely, dude.
Right? Like write it down on the calendar, put it on your wall, and you will see it every day, and you'll be like, oh, this is due, you know?
Yeah, that has been super helpful. Don't get me wrong, I also have reminders on my phone, but I've never done it for assignments. Like I use reminders on my phone more for like, oh, I have to meet with my group for a group presentation, or you know, I don't have to work today, kind of thing. But I've never done it for assignments, specifically because of what you just said. I know that I would swipe it away and forget about it in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I'm a hypocrite too, because I don't even take my own advice. Like, I don't write anything down.
I definitely have gotten a little bit. Well, I mean, this is not just with the calendar and organization stuff. Just in the semester overall, like because it's so close to finish. I would say for the past 2 weeks, I've really just been mailing it in. It has not affected my grades yet, luckily. But I definitely the intensity and rigor with which I was like engaging with the material or like reading the textbooks, it definitely. I don't know. I feel like I might have done too much earlier on in the semester, and now I'm kind of burnt out on it.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this Christmas break. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I mean, I just think, the semesters are rough, especially when you're getting to the end, you just want to get done. So yeah, obviously you're going to taper off a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's you're right. That is expected behavior.
Yeah.
So.
Are you doing an accelerated master's or like regular?
No, it's just a regular master's. It is a 2-year program with spring, summer, and fall semesters.
Gotcha.
So it's like so it's pretty intense in that regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was there were a couple of other programs. Most of them were 3 years though. And so, but I had this kind of like existential crisis where I started to really worry about my age, and I was like, damn, if I'm gonna be like 28 before I finish the master's, and then it's another year for like full counseling licensure,
right?
And it's like, damn, I'm gonna be 29 before I can start practicing, and it did something terrible to me. That year less that this program offered, that was really the make or break of it.
yeah, you're just like, no, I can't do it. I
can't do it.
How old are you? You 25?
I'm 25 at the moment, yeah.
Okay. All right, you're not too bad. I thought you're like some old guy, like 32 or something.
No. It could have been a lot worse.
yeah. You're fine, man.
But, I guess it's just now that I finally made the mid mark officially, I don't know, I really start seeing that big 3-0 approaching. I'm just like, oof.
No, trust me, you're in a really good spot, man. Like, I know plenty of people who are like 30 and they're just not doing anything,
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing great.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, how do you know like 6 languages?
It's kind of 3.5, but yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. I mean, well, first I gotta ask you, like, you speak other languages other than English, right? Or
yeah, I speak English is like, native language, and Urdu is also native language.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then I flex on some people sometimes where I'm like, I speak 4 languages. I speak English, Urdu, Hindi, and Punjabi. I don't actually speak Hindi, and I don't actually speak Punjabi, but Hindi and Urdu are very similar because India used to be like Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh used to be like one country.
Oh, okay.
So the dialect has kind of switched as they've, spread out and like, got borders. So Urdu is like Pakistan, Hindi is like India, and Bengali is like from Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the words are very similar in Hindi and Urdu. So I can understand Hindi, but I just don't speak it.
Okay, gotcha. It's kind of like so from my side of things, it's like, so I speak English and Spanish. Those I would both consider native, just because my family speaks Spanish at home, and then English just learned growing up here, and then in college I learned Italian, and so the thing you were talking about, like with Hindi and Urdu, I kind of have a similar thing with Spanish and Italian. They're really similar. So even before I like actually did the course, I felt like with just the teensiest bit of training, I could have understood like a basic Italian sentence. And I feel that way with Portuguese as well. The Spanish and Portuguese are also really similar. But yeah, I would never. I don't flex on people by saying that I speak, I speak Portuguese. Yeah, and then so that was in college. I did 2 years of Italian. It was a lot of fun and a really rewarding experience. And then after that, I learned German when I started living in Germany.
Yeah, okay. Why?
So, yeah.
Why did you live in Germany? What happened? No, tell me everything, though. Where have you
Yeah.
lived? Where are you from? Were you born in Mexico?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was. So the story of like where I've lived has been that I was born in Mexico. When I was still really young, my family moved to the United States, to Texas, and they've been here pretty much ever since. So I grew up I did most of my growing up in the Houston area. And
Most of my growing up.
Well, yeah, no, because there were a handful of years in there, like earlier childhood, that were in Mexico.
Right.
And but yeah, like pretty much all my formal schooling was done in the U.S. And then I lived in Washington D.C. for a little bit because that's where I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And then one semester I studied abroad in Florence. So that was just like the culmination of learning Italian. I was like, I did not spend 2 years of learning Italian to not try to study in Italy for a little bit. So I did that for a little bit, and that was actually really interesting because so I don't know how this is with your family, but like my mom, I guess I shouldn't mince words here. My mom specifically has she's like really attached to her children. So and so she had like a moment when I went to DC for college.
Mm-hmm.
So when I told her that I wanted to study abroad in Italy, she almost had a heart attack. She was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so far away." But she was, she was supportive and she was on board with it. And her one piece of advice was just, well, I would just really like it if you didn't fall in love with any Italian women, so because otherwise I'm not gonna get you back.
Yeah.
So that was the one piece of advice that I left with, and I really took it to heart. So when I was in Florence, I fell in love with a German woman, and. And yeah, then the rest was history. From there, we started dating. We had a relationship going long distance for a little bit. I came back to finish my final year of my undergrad, and then I moved to Germany to kind of try out the relationship there. And I had done a German course in college,
Mm-hmm.
but this was prior to meeting her. So it's like I didn't take it very seriously at the time.
Right.
I was just kind of like, it's a German course for funsies. And then I ended up needing it a lot more than I would have thought. So it's just the great irony of things.
That's so cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
And everything just works out.
Yeah, it's kind of been really strange how things have more than worked out. I guess they just kind of flowed together.
Yeah.
But it could also be like, I don't know. I'm always contradicted or conflicted about thinking of that, because I'm like, on one end it's like, yeah, you can see the flow, but it's like, is that also just hindsight? Am I putting the flow there when once there was none?
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think I think things just happen. Like,
yeah.
I don't believe in like any like super destiny related stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
Like stuff just happens and you're just like, oh, that happened. But that's just me.
Exactly. Oh, that's cool. That was no. Well, some people definitely, don't ascribe more meaning to the events.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's just kind of like, it is just funny, like in the randomness of it all, that it has worked out in these ways. There are these kind of links to it. So that's been pretty funny.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you're still in Texas right now, though, right?
Yeah, I moved back. So essentially, earlier this year, we actually married. I married this this German woman. Yeah, it's a whole deal.
When?
But we separated. A while back, actually.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So I thought you didn't.
It was a while back. But we separated earlier this year, and so pretty much since like the main reason behind me moving to Germany had been to kind of like test out that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
When that didn't work, I was just kind of like, well, maybe I'll come back here.
Yeah.
For a little bit to regroup. That being said, I did love living in Europe, and I would not put it off the table to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But I just figured that the smartest decision was just kind of to regroup in a more familiar setting. Not that, I mean, at that point, Europe was a familiar setting too, but
right.
But it was just nice to kind of come back
home.
Yeah, and it definitely that's what started really putting me on the path to pursuing the master's in psychology. So it's been nice.
That's good, man. Damn, bro, I feel like you have such an interesting life.
Thank you. It's that is one way to say it.
No, seriously, man. Like, compared to me, I have like the most boring life. My entire life, I've lived in Virginia, and that's it. I haven't done anything,
Nah, dude.
You've been all over the world and all this shit, like speaking like 20 languages.
Why do the languages get more like become bigger every time?
I don't feel like you know everything, man. Like anytime I talk to you, like, oh yeah, this is how you speak this in like Norwegian. I'm just like, huh?
Well, that's just definitely I leaned heavily into the linguistics nerd for a little my linguistics nerd persona for a little bit. But no, dude, I feel like you definitely don't sell yourself short, man. I like your Twitch. I've been popping by a few streams of late. That's definitely seems like is really taking off for you, man.
Yeah, but that's like, that's not as cool as saying like I lived in Germany. Like you just go on like talking to like people in real life, like, yeah, I got this Twitch stream, like, ew, get away from me. I'm like, oh wait, come back.
Well, I mean, as somebody who's also done been Twitch streaming, it's like, I think maybe that's why I feel like maybe somebody who hasn't done it can underestimate the amount of actual work and perseverance that it is to see growth in your community, but also how rewarding it really is.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, well, we wouldn't have met without this being a thing we both did. So.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like a huge positive thing. Like streaming is just meeting all these friends. Yeah,
absolutely.
I met so many cool people through Twitch.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like just so unexpected. Like, I know y'all had Jomar on here the other day, right?
Yeah.
Previous episode. Shout outs to Jomar, by the way. That dude's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, actually, so he and I met kind of like in the most random way. Like, I had been streaming for like a month, maybe two, not super long. And I was doing a challenge, like a 3-heart challenge for The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And I was trying to... Well, are you familiar? Have you played that one?
I have not played Twilight Princess, but I kind of know the game. I saw like a versus of it.
Well, it's just because there's this part in the game that's kind of like a cave with like, it's something like 30 or 50 floors or something like that. It's just like a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to do that with only 3 hearts, and it had been like so difficult. And Jomar, like, randomly, like before we had even met, rated me during that stream. And it was just crazy because I was getting like so discouraged with that challenge. Like, I wanted it bad, but it got to the point that night where I was like, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna have to just do this on another stream. But I got it like on my last attempt of the evening.
Damn.
And it was like, yeah, no, that felt really good. And if I remember correct, Jomar had stuck around for it to see it, and he was just like, wow, that's great, man. Have a follow. And then I was like, and then ever since then, I've just been popping into Jomar's stream from time to time.
That's awesome, man. It's so wholesome.
Yeah, he's a wholesome dude.
Yeah, he's really cool. I didn't even meet him through Twitch. I met him through a friend. Okay, so like, I mentioned this on like podcast with Jomar, but like basically I use Discord a lot. And I used to be like a part of all these like communities on Discord. Like, do you know what Cow Chop is?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, so like they had like a bunch of fan Discords just run by fans, like Cow Chop, The Creatures, Funhouse, and stuff like that. So I joined all these servers because I was friends with The Creatures, people in those servers and the Cow Chop servers, and some of them like were in the Funhouse server. So I joined that server. Like, I never even watched Funhouse before. I just joined the server just to talk to people. And one of those guys was It's Scoots. And he just told me about Jomar one day, and I was like, all right, I'll check out. And I went to a stream, and he was like a really cool dude, and I joined his Discord. And actually, we just became friends just like randomly through Scoots.
Yeah, dude.
And then that's how I found you and Awesomeness, dude, and like all these people, you know?
Yeah, it's been a whole little community situation at this point. And then I gotta hand it to you, you know, like going back to like doing the what goes into streaming. It feels weird to call this part of it work because I don't think it is work per se. But no, what I was gonna say is just like I definitely noticed like how active you are, like in so many different communities, like just really vibing, making friends, creating good moods where you're going. Like it's a strength, dude, to be able to just be that kind of presence.
I have no life, bro. Like I know you're busy, you know. But me, I'm like. I mean, okay, I am busy, but I have like a lot of stuff just on my personal computer that I do for like school and stuff. And I work from home. So I have my work laptop on right next to me, and then I'm on my personal computer for a lot of it. And I just have Discord open on a monitor. And I think I'm addicted to Discord because anytime I see like a little white bubble next to a server, like I immediately click on it and I just like start talking. So that's why. It's because I'm a fucking loser. It's not because I'm like, oh, let me make all these networking and stuff. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is fun. You know?
Well, but that's what I'm saying, right? That like it's definitely, you know, I was in a few like Twitch streamer groups a few years back, and they definitely talk, you know, about like, you know, networking and putting your brand out there and all that. But the thing is, like, in its best moments, it doesn't feel that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost a byproduct of the having fun that you're doing. And I think that's what's great about it. So, like, honestly, if you just feel like, dude, wow, I fucking love Discord and I love talking to all these people and that's. And the byproduct just is that, like, it also happens to be good for your channel. Like, I think that's like at best, that's the exact correct scenario.
Yeah.
That's the ideal situation, you know?
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's commendable, you know, seeing, because I've definitely been seeing, you know, a lot of the people we've talked about, and including you, like, definitely making, you know, making strides, making growth, getting your communities out there. Which is just amazing. You guys all have like super solid communities, and so I think it's great that can be spread to more people. But it's I just wanted to go back to a little bit to the just the work, the behind the scenes though that goes into it. Like it's not just you hop on your computer to stream and that's it. No, it's you're chatting with Discord, and it's a lot of fun. Streaming kind of becomes like, it's cheesy as hell, but it's like, it kind of becomes a lifestyle. Like, if you do it to a certain level of seriousness and beyond, it's kind of like, because you're talking to other people who do it. You are actually spending the hours to stream, and it is, every time you sit down, you're going to do like a 3-hour session at least. You are recording and editing videos outside of that, you know, you're managing your Twitter. It's a lot that goes into it. And I definitely think that it's really rewarding to like really lean into that. And I guess the best way I could say it is like in its best moments, it's so gratifying that it's like, you ever heard of like the flow state? You know what I'm talking about?
That sounds familiar.
Well, so it's like this concept it's this phenomenon, I guess you could call it, where like one of the best, like most ideal states that the humans can be in is when a challenge is at just the right level for your engagement and your ability with it. So it's not too easy that it's boring, and it's not too hard that it's just overwhelming or stressing you out. But I feel like there's a kind of flow state that you can get into when you start adopting like the streaming lifestyle, where it's just kind of like, it keeps you busy, and that's rewarding because you can be seeing so much progress in your channel and in your stats, and it also just feels good to like make videos or make content, for example. So it's just this constant thing where it was for me when I was doing it a lot more often, a little bit more seriously, that the amount of times of the day that I was thinking of streaming of just like, oh, what can I add? Or like, what videos would be interesting? Like, what tweets can I put out? You know, that kind of thing. And it's just like a consistent engagement. It really, you know, it was, I guess it was engaging. That's the word I'm looking for at the bottom line of it. So it's a lot. It's work. It's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes, but it's so engaging, and I think that's its own reward, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think like as an outsider, people can write off streaming as like easy, and to an extent it makes sense because like all you do is press stream and you play a game. But like, yeah, technically, sure. But like, I don't think people realize like the amount of effort required to have like a good stream, because like you can go on Twitch and pretty much like 99% of people on Twitch have 0 viewers, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a reason, because if you click on their stream, sometimes they don't even have a microphone or a webcam. It's just like a gameplay and there's like no audio, you know? Like, it's just like dumb shit like that where like, even if you do click on someone, they have a webcam and a mic, they're just not talking the entire time. Like, you have to put an effort to like, you know, at least talk. It's just, it takes a lot of work, and people like, they think it'll be easy, and then they just try it for themselves, and they're like socially anxious and stuff, and they can't do it. It takes like humiliation. Like you have to know that you're gonna look like a fucking loser and cringy, and like, but that's like just the work you have to put in, you know?
Yeah, that's the price of it, man.
Yeah, that's the price. You're a fucking loser, but hey, you know, it works. And you know, you're learning all the new technology and like OBS. It's not an easy program to understand. It's very daunting when you open it. Like, I remember the first time I opened OBS, I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah.
You you learn all these YouTube tutorials, and then you start understanding it. And now I'm like an expert almost, you know? Yeah. Same with like, you know, I even, before streaming, like I've been doing like, quote, content creation for like 10 years since I was a kid. Just because I grew up and like I was watching YouTube like a loser. Like I used to watch stop motion videos. You know that stuff?
Yeah, I know that stuff.
Yeah,
I remember because I used to watch them too.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're a loser, I'm a loser. That's where we're at with it.
Yeah, like Lego stop motion was like the coolest thing when I was a kid. So I would make my own like on this shitty little digital camera that we got from like Best Buy or something, and I would use Windows Movie Maker to cut up the pictures and make like a video, and it was like so stupid, but like that's how you learn, you know?
Yeah.
And people just don't understand that. They think like some of this stuff is so easy, like making YouTube videos easy, just turn a camera on, but it's like you have to know how to edit videos, how to write scripts, how to like cut things properly, how to like do all this like keyframing stupid shit. And it's like, this is a hobby, but like I wish I could make this my job, like even not just like on YouTube or anything, but like in the corporate world. I would love to be a video editor for like some company or like media guy, like because I have all the skills. It's just hard to like apply to a job when you have no professional experience, you know?
Yeah. And that's just, you know, the unfortunate reality of our current economic and professional situations in the country, I think. But like, it's no professional experience, and if you don't happen to have a degree in it, like even if you have all the skills, people really get hung up on the whole like, what was your degree in it, you know?
Yeah.
So that can be an issue in it as well. But yeah, I agree. I agree 100% with everything you said. I think that, to put it in a word, it's like streaming takes a surprising amount of humility. Like you gotta just be ready to be humbled by what's going to happen and the things you're gonna have to learn things that you did not know you did not know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's that element of it, and the actual streaming itself, like obviously, you know, OBS is just this daunting monster the first time you download it, and you're like, oh wow, like what do any of these buttons do? And yeah, it's just it takes a little bit of time. You gotta sit through the YouTube tutorials, really try to figure things out, and there's that element of it, and I think that takes a lot of humility. But also, what you were talking about, it's not just like you're on a camera and mic'd up, and that's it. That's not all it takes. I think and maybe this might be me revealing too much of the proverbial sausage factory, as it were. No, like I'm letting people see too much of what goes into the meat making process if you're not a streamer. But like, I feel like from an outsider perspective, you can underestimate how much of a performance streaming can be.
Oh yeah.
And that's not to say you're not being genuine. At the end of the day, you have a lot of control over what kind of performance you give and what kind of performer you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, at least for me, and I really can't generalize this, but for me, it's not as if I am 100% just chilling with my friend from college. Like, It's not that. It's there's more to it in the presentation as well. And like I said, it's not the case that it can be true that it's a performance and it is genuine. And I think that it's not like viewers relax. It's not like your streamers are lying to you.
Yeah,
it's
the two are not like mutually exclusive, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it also depends on like the person too, because you know there are people who are, well, I think like for people who are just really like monotone and like, you know, quote boring to be popular on Twitch, they have to be a professional gamer, you know? You look at someone like Shroud, he doesn't talk a lot, he's pretty monotone. He is the biggest streamer on Twitch, you know?
Yeah.
You will not be Shroud if you are boring and monotone. Because people, when they look at streams, they want somebody who's engaging and like fun to listen to for like background audio or like someone who responds to them, you know?
Right.
That's why like people like us have to put on this whole fucking clown show and like use these dumb voices and like be cringy and energetic. But that's how you retain like audience, you know?
No, dude, that's your star power, man. It's what it is. Like, the way I see it, you can get star power, you know, like in one of two ways. It's what you're saying, like, you can be energetic. It can be, the performance can be about you, or it can be about your gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And if neither one of those is reaching the necessary quality, that's gonna be an issue. That's gonna hold you back.
Yeah.
So, you know, somebody like Shroud, then the gameplay is the star power. That is engaging in and of its, like, by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you happen to be that level of good at any game, or like, you know, Ninja was also somebody who's just, like, happened to be dummy good at the most popular game at this exact moment and really just took off with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a big part of what I would say, where I would say his success came from. But yeah, and like, for the rest of us who are not pros like that, it's gotta be, you know, it's a performance based on your personality, or you're making jokes, it's your sense of humor, it's your capability to create an environment that people want to be in too.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
So
exactly, and that's just so like not in people's minds when they think of streaming, like from an outsider perspective. But that is like 100%, you know, what's going on like in real time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's in real time, you know.
Yeah.
It's and that can get tricky too. Suddenly, you know, you definitely, there have been some situations I've encountered where it's just like, I never thought I would be in this situation when I first started to stream, but here I am now. How do you want to handle it? Obviously, like, you get like trolls or whatever. Everyone gets to troll at some point. But beyond that, you just like, I'm trying to think of one that would have, like, for example, there was this one time, it was pretty early on, where I was doing a Final Fantasy VII stream, and somebody came in just like, hey, this is my favorite game. It's like, oh, cool, that's what's up, man. It's one of my favorites too. And this guy started going off, I don't know if it was real or not, but he started going off about this whole, like, essentially this like really tragic backstory that he had. And he had never shown up on the stream before, but it was a total downer, and it's just kind of like, and I remember reading the chat messages and like having to take a moment of like, okay, think about your response that you want to take to this before you just say the first thing that comes to your mind. And because on my situation, I was like, you don't want to create an insensitive environment, but you also don't want to let the whole party vibe get derailed.
Yeah.
Well, for me, because I was trying to keep like a really fun party vibe going on for the viewers I had at that time. And it's like you don't want to totally derail everything for this guy that just like showed up for the first time. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that was an interesting situation. I don't remember exactly what I said or how I handled it, but it ended up okay.
I'm sure it was fine. The guy just, like, cries and leaves.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you, hey, man, you just needed somebody to kind of vent at for a little bit, sure.
Yeah. That's, like, yeah, that's the thing when it's, like, real time, and, like, you don't expect these things to occur in your chat, you know? Like... Sometimes, you know, like, you know, one of your friends will come in and they're like venting about their day at work, and that's fine. But like, it's really awkward when it is like, you know, someone random and they're just talking about like random stuff like, oh, you know, my dad's getting surgery and we can't afford it and I just don't know what to do. And I'm just like, man, I don't know you, dude. Like, you know, it's just like, please don't give me your back. Like, obviously, I don't want to sound like an asshole. Like,
right.
You know,
because that's the line you have to walk. That's the line you have to walk.
Like, you don't want to sound like an asshole, but it's like, dude, why are you telling me this? Like,
seriously. In such detail.
Yeah, like, you know, my sister's on the deathbed right now. Like, I'm getting put in an orphanage. Like, I just know what to do. I'm failing high school. Like,
yeah, no, and you thought they were done, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, there's like a second paragraph. Like, oh, God.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a few of those, and it's like, you know, I don't know, and maybe this is just me reading too much into it because it's like, I feel like most people would also be like, yeah, why are you telling me this? Like, I don't know you, but somehow in that moment when you're in front of the camera, it's just kind of like, would I seem like an asshole? Like, would I kill the vibe if I, like, said something along those lines? And so you gotta kind of, like,
yeah, like, you have to be nice, but it's like, how do you respond, you know? You're just like, oh, man, that's, like, terrible. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Like, and then then you're in the awkward position where it's like, do I be quiet for, like, 20 minutes? Or do I, like, be like, anyways, so we're in this boss fight. Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's why it's awkward. Because if it's, like, your friend who's venting, you can have more of a conversation. You're like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, like maybe something, but then there's like a random person who's just like,
yeah, exactly. And it's just if it's your friend, you also know like there's more context to it. Like you can kind of pursue, I guess, more avenues of conversation that are both, you know, empathic to your friend, but also, you know, I guess entertaining, you know, for the general audience.
Yeah.
But it definitely is like when it is somebody you don't know, you do exactly as you said. Like, do I keep quiet? Are we having a moment of silence, or am I just immediately like, so fuck this boss right here? Like, I hate this game.
Am I right, guys?
This is the worst. This boss fight is the worst thing that could happen to anybody.
God.
Right?
That guy's just like, what the fuck? No, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, no, but it happens. These kinds of things do happen.
Yeah. Like, either that'll happen or like sometimes there'll just be like, I don't know, like I'll say this, like the other day I was playing Wind Waker, right? Like literally the other day. And some guy in my chat was like, hey, like join Discord, I want to show you something. And I don't even know this guy. It's just some guy. I'm like, I thought he was from like a raid or something because I just got raided. So I was like, what do you want to show me? Like, I'm trying to play this game. He's like, no, it's for the game. I was like, because I was stuck. To be fair, I was stuck in like a temple somewhere.
Okay.
I was like, all right, sure. But it was awkward because he was like, you know, join the voice chat. And like the kind of streamer like me and you are, we're like single player streamers, you know? Like,
yeah.
I'm not a multiplayer streamer. I don't like having someone else on my stream because it's really awkward for me.
Sure, yeah.
Because, you know, you want to talk to chat and stuff. And if you're in like a voice chat, it's like, super awkward. Like, I can mute my mic, but it's just like it takes effort to like mute. Anyways,
yeah.
And I joined the voice chat, and the guy's like just telling me like stuff. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And I'm just like dead silent the whole time. Like, I'm just like, I don't know how to handle that. You know, I don't know how to tell someone to like, no thanks, because like it's just some dude like, is he gonna never come back to the stream if I say no? You know, like, I don't know.
Right.
It's like one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, well, one thing I wanted to say real quick was just kind of like, I definitely get your concern with the whole group chat on stream situations, or group voice chat, because on one end, like, I feel like even in the best of cases where you got people you really vibe with, if you didn't plan this out to be a specifically group stream, you know, because sometimes it's like, okay, we're all gonna get together and like play Among Us together, and I know that everyone here is chill, so there's not gonna be anything wrong. Nobody's gonna say any buck wild shit in real time. And it's fine, because that's the other thing too. I definitely would have that concern as well, that with certain people it's just kind of like, I don't know if I want this person talking in real time.
Right. Yeah.
And there's that element of it, and so in the worst of cases is like, yeah, you get somebody saying something just totally crazy, but even in the best of cases, I feel like as a viewer, my experience with going into a group chat stream tends to be, not always, but it tends to be. It sucks. You feel like you're intruding on something. I feel like you guys are having fun and I'm just kind of in the corner watching y'all. Like,
dude, that's exactly how I feel. Like, that's why I don't want to do group stuff. Because when, I mean, like you say, it feels like you're intruding, but it's also just like, when you're streaming and you're like doing a group thing, it's hard to like mute and talk to chat. Like, you're kind of like forced to talk to your friend. It's just like awkward for everyone, you know?
Yeah.
Like, as a viewer, you'll ask a question and then it won't be responded or like answered, and like maybe like it's just, you're basically being ignored for a lot of it, you know?
Right.
Which is not the vibe like a viewer wants. They want to be like engaged with, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, so yeah, I think it was eye-opening for me the first time that I had that experience with the group, where I was like a viewer in a group stream, and I was like, oh yeah, this actually, like, I don't know if I want to incorporate this into my streams without it being like a special event, you know? And then it'd be a bit different. Yeah. But yeah. And also the other thing you were just a little while ago you were talking about, where you get somebody who is just like kind of, I don't even know if they do it on purpose, but it's like some people do kind of like boundary testing, like whether it be they come in with their tragic life story or they just tell you like, hey, join this Discord. Like, why don't you just write out what I should do in chat? You can also do that.
Yeah, exactly. Just to say it in chat.
But somehow like the extra step of like, no, come join my Discord. Come chat with us here. Like, it always feels a little strange to me. And, but it is a weird dynamic where like, and I feel like, you know, if any streamer were honest, it is a weird dynamic where it's just kind of like, on one end, yes, you know, this is kind of weird, this is a little strange, but it is also like, it's a new viewer. Like, is he gonna leave and never come back
exactly
if I don't respond to him in a sensitive way, you know? And I feel like, you know, people say like, you know, just be you, keep your vibe, and keep your channel how you want it. But I feel like the reality of it is it's almost unavoidable that you'll have these concerns from time to time.
Yeah, like, that's true. Like, you know, be you, keep your channel the way you want it. But when you're like a smaller streamer, you want like every viewer you can get, you know?
Yeah, that's a reality people don't talk about enough, I think.
Yeah, like, I'll keep that tangent for another time. But like, you know, you want like everyone you can get. So if someone is like coming in with these like weird like, you know, stories or dialogues and requests, like, you don't want to immediately like turn them away. You want to try to like, you know, rope them in a little, like keep them around, like talk to them and stuff. Which it sounds like I'm a sociopath, like comparing people to like this person is a viewer, but that's like in terms of like a streamer. Like, I don't want to turn anyone away. I don't want to like lose any viewership, which, you know, that's like the concern. Is like, you always want to have like a high viewership. You want to keep your average high, you know? And I'm just speaking in terms of like statistics. Obviously, like, I'm not like a sociopath. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. But you know what I mean.
The jury's... I'll wait until I finish my master's. I'll come back to you on that.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, if you want to diagnose me, go ahead.
But yeah. Yeah, no, like you're saying. Sorry, I cut you off. About the high, you want to keep your average high in terms of statistics.
Yeah, just like that's the thing. Like when you're like the small streamer, and somebody does come in and be like, "Hey, can I show you something on Discord?" It's like that awkward thing. Like I'm also like in general, I'm just very like awkward, and I don't like talking to people. So especially if I'm not friends with them. So I'm just like. Do I, talk to this guy, or do I just be like, no? If I say no, they're just gonna leave, and they're like, there goes another viewer. If I say yes, they might like come back the next stream. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a weird power dynamic, I think. And, and yeah, it goes. I think it goes unstated too much how weird that power dynamic is, and also. We're talking about all these things that happen internally while streaming, and it's like, but the whole time, you got to keep it cool, collected, be a performer, showman. Like, I feel like if you were not for people who are not streamers, it can be hard to believe that this amount of thought process is rapidly happening
in the moment.
In the moment, like, but it is. That's what it is.
You're solving like all these like mathematical theorems and equations all in like real time. Your brain is processing this shit like rapid fire. Like if I do this, this will be the outcome. If this happens, this will happen. Like this guy, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and the whole time you got to think of your next dick joke that you're gonna make.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's
just hard.
It's difficult.
It is difficult. God, it's so hard being me.
Yeah, I know, right? Have I talked about how terrible?
No,
oh man,
we're kidding. I mean, like some of that is true, but the dick joke was like, that's a joke. That's good.
Yeah, some good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that in my stand-up routine.
Oh yeah, hit it. You do stand-up, or is that?
No,
are you gonna start?
I don't.
You can start. I've always, a project that I've kind of hypothesized about in the past. I don't know if anybody has done this. I've really tentatively thought about it. But like, have there ever been, to your knowledge, any like stand-up shows done through Twitch, like streamed?
Not to my knowledge, but it probably has happened. Just knowing the internet.
Yeah, it seems like it would have been a thing, but it's definitely a thing where like, I've never done any stand-up, but it had been a thing that occurred to me a little while ago that I was like, oh, I thought that it could be fun to like potentially like, prepare some material and like participate in a lineup like that, just kind of test it out. And I had talked to some other people in my life about this, and especially some people who have done stand-up, and they were saying like, yeah, you could try it, but it might be more difficult than you think, especially because for them, they really riff off of the audience, right. Like, and that's a thing you definitely wouldn't have in the same way through Twitch. Like, yeah, people can only type so many LULs.
Yeah, before, exactly.
And it's not the same as like seeing, people's faces or like hearing the laughter in different volumes,
Yeah, that's definitely like, that's what I was thinking. Like, I don't know how well like stand up would translate to Twitch because you don't get to read the room. You just get to chat. And sometimes people are like mobile. So like you'll say something and like, two people will laugh and then you'll just be in your next joke and then you'll just be like some guy like, LMAO. You're like, huh? And like 30 seconds later.
Yeah. That's true. Your pacing would have to be way different to account for that.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know. That's definitely an interesting concept though. Like, if you can somehow make it work, I don't know, it might not be like 100% just stand-up. Maybe it would be like you're doing some kind of activity that revolves around stand-up or some weird like performance type shit with like a few different people. I don't know.
Yeah, it might need some tweaking, but overall, I think it's just an interesting concept that I thought of.
Yeah.
So it was that, and it also, but it's also. I don't know. I guess in practice, it might not end up feeling that much different from just like streaming. Because I definitely sometimes wonder as I'm chatting, I'm like, how did that joke fly over with the audience? Like, I wish I could hear the viewers laugh sometimes, It's, but yeah, so that's just a thing I was thinking about.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. You should definitely put it in the old brain cap for like a rainy day or something.
Yeah. Speaking of, I don't know how the weather's been like for you, but it's been like definitely. Oh, I hate this weather. I want to take a shit on this weather, man. It's
Whoa, what's going on over there?
It's just been like 2 days of like the soggiest, rainiest days are here.
Ah, damn.
And it's just kind of like, this is gross, bro. Don't like it.
I agree. I don't like rain. It makes me like sad, you know?
Yeah. I get that. I get a little bit of that too.
It's just been like, over here the weather's always just kind of all over the place, but usually it's like, you know, cloudy or sunny or rainy. It just rotates. But right now it's pretty sunny.
Oh, that's good.
That's good, yeah.
Well, specifically, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you know, the sun sets at like 4 p.m., which makes me fucking sad. But what were you saying?
Yeah, well, there's also that element of it. But no, I was just gonna remark that I don't really mind rain per se. It's just it's if it's gonna rain, have the decency to have some thunder in it, because that I do find kind of comforting.
Okay.
And let's keep it to like a 5-hour max rain.
This
like it's
fucking guy. You're like, are you kidding me? He's like, you're the guy who opens up his door and just starts like yelling at this guy. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Huh?
Yeah, what the hell is this? This is the most like limpy ass soggy rain, like that's just drizzling on for like 2 days. And I'm like, come on, man, like make it interesting. Do one heavy rainfall, get it out of the way. We can go back.
Bro, you're the first person I've heard describe rain as soggy. What the fuck?
No, but it's different. There's like wet rain, and then there's like
what?
damp
What are you
rain.
saying, bro?
No. Hold on.
You're the kind of guy who goes up to people like, "Yo, man, is water wet?"
Okay, but is it though?
Shut up.
But is it? Like...
I don't fucking know, man.
Oh man, no, because it's like. If it's pouring, let's put different verb. Okay. If it's pouring, I can handle that. That makes a really nice, pleasant, just like boom on the window when it hits, and it's kind of like that's nice. But if it's just like lightly drizzling and just consistently, and that's what you're dealing with, that's the worst, dude. That's the worst. I hate that.
I understand where you're coming from. Personally, I don't know what I prefer, because both of them just like, even if it's cloudy, I just feel like gloomy and depressed. I don't. People call it like seasonal depression. I don't know if that's the case, but it just, my mood does tank when it's like cloudy or rainy. Same when it turns nighttime, my mood tanks. That's why I hate like what is it called? Savings time? Daylight savings time? Is that what this is?
Yeah, daylight savings. Yeah.
I hate that shit, man. It gets dark at like 4 p.m. Like my entire day is like ruined, you know?
Dude, yeah. I mean, you're pretty far up north in Virginia too, so it's like,
yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh, I remember that was one of the biggest surprises about moving to Europe. My first German winter, it did get to that point where essentially I would go into work early in the morning. It's dark as hell.
Yeah.
I'd get out of work at like 4 or 5, and it's dark as hell again. And it's like, and it's so insidious. For me, it was really insidious. Like, I think I was just kind of like surprised the first time I saw it. But then it goes for a few weeks that it is this way that the sun sets at like 4:35, and it really, suddenly, and then like a few weeks after that, I'm just sitting there wondering like, damn, why do I feel like crap? Like I just feel so like unmotivated, and like I have no energy for anything. And like, oh yeah, I haven't seen the sun in any real sense for weeks now.
Yeah, that is like that to me is such a shitty feeling, because like that's why I'm glad I am working from home, because I have a window in my room. But like,
nice.
Back in like last year when I was working, it would just be that, like, I'd go wake up at like 6 a.m., go drive to work, and then leave work at like 5, and it's nighttime, and I'm just like, God, I hate my life.
Yeah, it's like I said, it wears on you, and it's even if it's not an immediate thing, and it could be, but even if it's not an immediate thing in that day, it really is just kind of like suddenly a week, 2 weeks later, you're like, dang, I just feel terrible. I'm not motivated for anything. I feel just kind of vaguely depressed. And And that's why, you know.
Yeah. You need the sun.
You need it. You absolutely do need it. Despite what I thought as a teenager, just kind of hanging out, playing computer games often, I do need the sun.
Yeah.
So.
How, speaking of like being a teenager, just being on the computer, how have you been handling the pandemic? Has it been like affecting you, or how is your life revolving around it? Are you depressed, like not being able to see people, going out, or how is your life?
Yeah, it definitely has been, it has taken a toll. I don't think for me it's been as bad as it's been for some other people I know.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the reason for that is recently, you know, since August, since starting this master's,
Mm-hmm.
gives me something to do to keep busy. That I can kind of stay, you know, involved in something else. And it also forces me to attend, you know, video lectures where a professor talks, and you know I have to interact with other people through group projects. So there is like new and engaging social contacts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, you know, I think being a kid, like for us, being kids who grew up with the internet, social like internet contacts don't feel as detached as they might for a lot of other people who did most of their growing up and like formative years without the internet. Because it's kind of like, I do think that when you hear people say things like, oh, you know, an online friendship's not the same as a real friendship, I think it's just so telling of what your formative years were like.
Oh, yeah.
And if you did not spend a lot of time cultivating what you felt were friendships on through online mediums, then it would definitely feel that way as an adult, and that might make it hard. But if you did have that experience, I think then the transition has been slightly easier in that regard, where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna play more Rocket League or Smash Brothers with my friends. Like it's things that I was already doing, and this is already a thing that I valued as quality time. So in that regard, it hasn't changed much. So I would say in the past few months, it's gotten a lot better. There was definitely a period of time during the summer where it was just heavy and tough because I hadn't gotten accepted to any master's programs yet. I was like still thinking that I wanted to apply somewhere to work, but then everything was closing down. Nobody was hiring. And so it really just got into a time where there was a period of time where I'm just kind of like, wow, I went from earlier this year, you know, having my own place, having a job, and having my wife, to now being back with my parents and not having a job, not having my own place. And so that really did that rocked me for a little bit of time. But I've definitely gotten it's gotten a lot better for me, man. How about you, man? How's it been holding on? How have you been holding up?
I've been good, man. Like, I say this quite a bit, but pretty much my entire life I've been a shut-in, you know? Just the way I was raised and culture and just a bunch of mix of things. I think I also have like some weird like social anxiety probably. So I never really been a guy to go out. The only time I ever really went out, it was like it's like senior year of high school. I made some friends that I would go to their houses, but that's about it, you know. And then like, you know, after that, like those were my good friends. We would hang out like, you know, the following years. But like in my entire like life, I've been the guy who just sits at home and plays video games. You know, Counter-Strike was a big game for me in high school. That's what I would do every day. After school, I would just play Counter-Strike. I think that kind of conditioned me to like be okay with being at home, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Just because maybe I am a sociopath, but I have no problem with staying at home and staring at a wall for the entire day. You know what I mean? And giving myself a computer to stare at instead of a wall, like that is even better. I could just like stare at my computer for the entire day and not get affected. Like,
I think there's a lot of strength to that, you know. I feel like it requires a real like Zen mentality, like a real peace of mind to just be like, I'm alone and I'm okay with this, you know. I feel like a lot of people don't have that same. Gosh, it's a different they can't they cannot enter that mind space where it's just kind of like, I'm okay with this, I'm all right, I'm alone. And I'm not saying it's an easy mind space to enter, but if you're already, if that's kind of like your natural state, I think there can be a lot of strength in that, you know.
There's probably like pros and cons to it, but I just think like, I mean, and the way America's handled it is terrible. Like the whole
absolutely.
Thing. I just feel like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy, like especially earlier on, and in the summer when my entire like real life friend group was always hanging out. I always felt like I was crazy, like, because, you know, like, this is an airborne virus. It's easily transmittable. You don't know if you have symptoms, like, sometimes.
Right.
Like, why the fuck are you guys hanging out? Like, am I, like, the crazy guy just staying home? Like, what the fuck? I've been staying home since, like, March, you know? Obviously, I've gone out to, like, pick up food, or, like, sometimes I have to go in the office for work to do stuff. But, like, if I don't have to leave, I will stay home. And everybody around me seems to not care. Like, my brother will still sometimes hang out with people. My sister like hangs out with people. She invites people over. Like obviously, you know, they're friends and they trust their friends, but I don't trust my friends. You know, I don't know where their friends have been. I don't know where their family has been. I don't know who they've been in contact with. It's so many variables, you know. And one of my friends got COVID, and like so that's how I'm just like, what the fuck, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, dude, it's that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like a lot of it is just like I don't know. It's like an understanding of your place in a community and as a part of a whole, and it's just kind of like, listen, if we all stay the fuck home and if we all take this seriously, this will pass and this is gonna be all right. And people will not die from this. But you know, and I say this also as somebody who actually just like a few days ago did have a friend drop by here, but it's kind of like drop by my house, I mean, and it's kind of like I had known this person now for a while, or I was just kind of like, I trust that you're like, I trust you enough, you know what I mean? But definitely like going out to like super big public spaces or anything, it is nerve-wracking for me. Like even just going into like a grocery store, it's just still like, oh my gosh, this is not okay. And especially because I don't know if you've seen this, man, but it has started to like infuriate me every time I see it. When people are walking around with a mask
beneath their nose.
Beneath their nose.
Dude, that shit pisses me off.
And I've been to grocery stores where I've seen just like groups of 3 or 4 people congregating, hanging around like that, and I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude?
They're all just like coughing on each other and like breathing on each other, and they're like, hey man, come here, let me shake your hand. And you're like, what the fuck?
No, I don't think so. No, get the fuck away.
Obviously they don't do that, but like, yeah, it pisses me off.
Yeah, and it's been tough, man. And it was like a few weeks back, actually, we had a COVID case in my family, because my dad got it, and it was like, and it was a messed up situation on a number of levels, because on one end it's like he was a person who was like a quote unquote essential worker and required to go to work, and it's just kind of like, no, come on, guys, like, why can't we just pay people to stay home? Come on, like, but anyhow, and he's like super cautious. Like my dad is like a super cautious man and takes COVID really seriously. And it's just kind of like the great irony of it is like the guy who like is sanitizing his hands all the time, wearing gloves and masks wherever he goes. Like this is who gets it. Like And I wouldn't wish, and it's also like a, you know, if I say this quiet enough, he won't get mad at me. But he's like an elderly man too, like it's like a risk group, and
he's like, huh? He starts walking over.
They're like, no, stop it! I didn't mean it.
He starts like beating you.
But you know, so it's kind of like a risk group, and so just, you know, the moment you hear, you know, like, your dad's been feeling a little under the weather and then they test COVID positive, you can't help it, dude. Every thought goes through your mind, and you're kind of like, oh boy, like
that's terrifying, man.
It was a pretty stressful like 2-week period, And during that time, I just pretty much like, I got a COVID test, and when I tested negative, then I just went to go like stay at an Airbnb for a while just to kind of like super quarantine myself, make sure I didn't get it, or whatever, and then eventually, just come back to the house. But it was like, that was a stressful 2 weeks, man. I wouldn't wish it. Don't just be safe, guys. Be safe. Take it seriously, because when it does hit your house, it will take on such a different dimension for you. And just and this is just be safe. And now, granted, I don't think it has to hit your house for you to give a shit. But if that's the kind of person you are, then like, fuck it. Then maybe this will convince you to play along,
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah. Like, that's the thing where, like, the people who are cautious, but the people who are not cautious, like, they're the ones spreading it,
Yeah, absolutely.
And it'll affect the people who are cautious at some point, just because of how things work and how people interact and stuff.
It's highly contagious, man. So that's the whole deal.
It's scary, man.
It's tough.
But yeah, I was thinking about going to a concert.
So anyway, so I got invited to hang out at this like bar with everybody there. Yeah. No, actually, it is also like, I aside from the people wearing their masks in stupid ways at the grocery store, I remember hearing from a friend of mine who said they were driving through downtown Houston, and they were just like driving home from wherever they were, and it was like a Friday, it was like a weekend night, and they said like, dude, I almost had a panic attack. It's everyone's out here in groups. Like that, you wouldn't tell that you couldn't be able to tell that there's any difference between right now and like last year, and it's just kind of like, I hate everyone.
It's so disheartening.
Yeah. But yeah,
I won't be able to understand it, and I never will.
Yeah, maybe at a certain point, maybe that's the peace of mind that I need to seek. That's just kind of like, just gotta let go of this one, because I'm not gonna understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh man, what a downer.
So, Yu-Gi-Oh, huh?
Yeah, so how about that Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah.
Really? That was a good show. I liked that one. Dude, speaking of shows that I liked as a kid, you know what show I've been getting back onto?
What?
Avatar: The Last Airbender, dude.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Dude. I keep watching it, and I'm just kind of... And because this was an interesting one where, like, I actually didn't watch Avatar growing up, like, when it was on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it for the first time when I was in college, like, I think my first year in college, because my at the time girlfriend just, like, vouched so much for it and was like, we gotta watch this, trust me, we gotta watch this. And I was kind of like reluctant about it. I was like, oh, okay, sure. I mean, I didn't watch it when it was on TV. Like, how good can it really be? And and I was like, oh, damn, I should never doubt.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I would have never doubted them. It's I've been watching that show again, and I'm just kind of like, damn, dude, that's a great piece of animation.
Dude, I also didn't watch it growing up. One, because when we were a kid, we didn't have cable. And then when we did have cable, I don't think it was on TV anymore. And then when I did see it, I think I was in high school. I don't remember why I watched it. I think maybe somebody told me about it online. Somehow I ended up watching it, and I watched it and it was like you said, it's a great piece of animation. That show is actually perfect. There's like one minor gripe I would say, in terms of animation, like, you know how some of the Fire Nation stuff is like 3D rendered kind of. Like that stuff hasn't aged well.
Their ships.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of their ships and like big like catapult weapons are like 3D animations, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And some of the vehicles and stuff, like, they don't like look that great anymore, but everything else is like fantastic, The plot is like perfect. Every episode ties into the next, and like all the character building, and it's so good, man. Like, that is a 10 out of 10 show.
It is absolutely incredible. I would say that I'd recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, really.
It's great, man. I also know, and because it is fall type weather, I do feel like we also gotta talk about
Over the garden wall.
Over the garden
That's
wall.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. I love this guy. Hey, Joe, you know this guy? God, man. That is such an underrated show, dude. I talk about it all the time. People are like, this is a dumb little kid's show. Well, fuck you, man. Just watch it.
Yeah, seriously. Just sit down and watch it. It's like the length of a movie. You watch it all in one sitting. Like
That's like how I try to convince people, like, it's only like almost like 90 minutes or something. And they're like, I don't know. It's like, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Fuck. It is. That show's stupid good.
That show's also perfect.
Yeah, that's a really good one too, and it's in an entirely different way. Its perfection is an entirely different kind, but it is so good. I think just because like even beyond like capturing Halloween aesthetic, I think it just captures like fall aesthetic. Like it just is
because
it's just.
They don't even mention Halloween until like the 8th or 9th episode, like right before the show is about to end. Like you don't even know it's Halloween. You just think like they're wearing that because it's like in the universe, you know?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. It hits you. But then when it does happen, you're like, wow, like how did I not see this?
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I love that show so much. Like everything about it I think is perfect. And the way they tell their story in 10 episodes is just... They get what they want to say and they say it and it just works so well, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing with it too. I think that's a good point. Like they get what they want to say and they just say it. Like it's just economic use of their showtime. Like every minute counts and it's part of what they wanted to say or what they want to build up.
Yeah.
And so it's great in that regard. And it's it's like something I really like that it's kind of morbid, but I enjoy how unabashedly and consistently the show deals with death. Like just as a consistent theme of the show. Like there's a quote that I really remember. It's like the second episode, I think, second or third, where they go to the pumpkin village.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it's like a bunch of skeletons.
Yes, and I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
And at the end, the big leader, I think his name is Enoch, is like, would you care to stay and join us? And then, and I think Word is just kind of like, no, I think I'm good. And then he responds, oh, okay, like, you'll join us someday. And it's just kind of like, oh, I don't know. That one always hits me because it's just kind of like, just demystifying it almost. Just kind of like, as sure as you are watching this television show right now, kid, you will join us someday too. And it's just part of life. There's nothing scary about it. It's just the one certain thing that will happen in your life at some point. And I think it's beautiful to like just be able to look that in the face and be like, yeah, there's nothing mystic about this, nothing like terrifying. It is just, it's a thing that will happen at some point.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, it is. It's really cool how they talk about it and it's so chill. And like, even just that scene, but like everything about the show, like the small, like dark, like the faintest amount of like darkness, it's just, they do it so well where it's not like, like a kid's not gonna get scarred, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I feel
it's just good, man.
Hey, it is great, and not to mention the soundtrack. Is it's
a
bop,
fucking
dude. The
banger.
whole soundtrack is just full of bangers.
Dude, I listen to this shit on Spotify.
Dude, hell yeah, dude. I straight up will be listening to fucking A is for the apple that he gave to me. Dude, I'd be putting that shit on.
Just be like, in traffic at the red light and you're just cranking that shit. What's up?
The guy next to me at the light is like looking over. I'm all like, but I found the word inside. Doom, doom, doom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's so good, man.
Yeah,
I like the aesthetic and stuff of like the old timey stuff, but then it's like modern day too. It's just so cool.
Yeah, it's actually, I remember back when I had seen it for the first time, and I was living in Germany when this happened. I remember talking to my then wife about this, and she had told me that it was like a Reddit post or something. She had read something online that was like, part of the reason that show is so interesting is because it has an aesthetic that makes you feel like you're watching some kind of fairy tale tropes. Like, that you should be way more familiar with these settings and characters than you actually are, because they're not actually tropes. They're new things, but they manage to coat them in this sense of familiarity, of fairy tale familiarity, that it's so easy for you to accept. Oh man, I'm gonna have to find this. I'm gonna have to ask her about what it was specifically, but it was basically something along those lines, that it's new tropes in a thick disguise of tropes that you think you should be familiar with, and that was definitely, it made me think about that for a while. I'll have to see if she still remembers where she found that.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see what they're saying. Did you ever look at like theories and stuff for the show?
No, I have not, actually. Did you find any interesting ones?
There are just like a bunch of cool little details that you might not have picked up on through watching it. So yeah, I don't. So there's like theories and stuff, like the unknown is like purgatory, like
right.
And there's like stuff that solidifies it too, like Quincy Endicott. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
His like gravestone is in the town of like where we're.
Yeah.
You know, in the graveyard. It's like, whoa, that guy's dead, and like, it's just like cool stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that one actually.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if there are like other ones that are that way, but yeah, no, they're definitely. I do think Over the Garden Wall is one of the shows that I would say, more than most shows I've ever seen, merits a second viewing. Like, if you finish it, watch it again, and you will enjoy it like a totally different show now that you have the overview of the whole story.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so much that is so intentional.
Yeah.
And set up.
Like, for an example, like back to the pumpkin episode, when they first enter the like barn, a lot of the pumpkins are like, "Oh, you're too early," you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, "What do you mean we're too early?" Like, you wouldn't know that unless you finish the episode, and they're like, "Oh, they're too early because they're not dead," like, you know?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then, actually, you just reminded me of another one. There's like, when they first get to the town, Wirt is like looking around, and he walks into a house with like a big turkey just sitting like at a table.
Yeah.
And I think he says something along the lines of like, "Hey, do you know where the nearest phone is?" And you just the first time I saw it, I just took that line at face value. Does this turkey know where the nearest phone is? But how does it's so obvious, it's dead in your face. How does Wirt know what a phone is?
Exactly.
In the setting that you believe it is in right now.
Yeah, stuff like that is just so cool, man.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Like I said, a second viewing, without a doubt. You watch it, you finish watching it, watch it again.
Yeah. Are you someone who like rewatches shows often, or what?
I would say so. Say so. I definitely and with Over the Garden Wall, it's like it's no biggie just because it's of its length. I would say that these days, even if I don't rewatch entire shows, I definitely do have shows that I like to go back to, just for comfort. Just because I feel like I was talking about this with someone recently, but I feel like starting new media, and I wish it didn't feel this way for me, but at the moment it does. It is a kind of like emotional and cognitive investment and a kind of work that I don't always have the energy for. And so I'm actually really happy about the semester finishing soon, because I will have a lot more time and cognitive energy that I don't need to spend for, writing an essay or whatever. And I could just be like, oh, I can now watch a new show. I can now play a new game. I've been wanting to play Ori and the Blind Forest. For a minute, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And but yeah, I would say that's kind of what leads me to rewatch shows or rewatch parts of shows often. It's just kind of there's like no cognitive work. I already know what happens. Yeah. There's no emotional investment. It's so it is nice in that way. What about you, man?
That's a very like well worded way to say it. Mm. I think that's probably the same reason for me, like, because I also tend to rewatch stuff. Mm-hmm. I never had like a reason to, like, I didn't know like why, but maybe that's why. You put in the big words.
I mean, if it resonates.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like I don't watch a lot of stuff often. I don't know why. I just never really watched anything. Like as a kid, I would just watch YouTube and stuff, and I would watch SpongeBob because we had it on DVD, so I would just watch SpongeBob all the time.
Hey, nice.
And then I would watch YouTube after that, and then but like. I'm not like a guy who like sits down and watches anime like every day and like, I finish like 10 animes in a day. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm the guy who's like, I watch like Avatar: The Last Airbender and then I watch it like, 3 months later and then I watch it like the next year like 5 times and then I'll watch like Gravity Falls for like the 6th time. You know what I mean? I don't know why. Like,
yeah, no, I feel that.
I just like, that's the kind of guy I am.
No, I feel that. Do you say that because we've been talking a lot about animated shows, do you feel like you generally gravitate towards animated shows more?
Yeah, I definitely think I prefer like American cartoons. I have nothing against anime. Like if my friends are watching it, like on Discord, sometimes I'll join them. And I'm very like invested in it, even though I haven't even like watched it from the beginning. Like we're watching like season 2, like episode 73. I'm super invested in the characters. I'm like crying when like someone dies. I'm like, God, why? And then I don't even watch the rest of it. I'm just like, oh, that happened. But like, I don't know if it's just because like the cultural difference between the difference of like shows and stuff, like like American cartoons like Gravity Falls and stuff, I guess I just like relate to them more, like the comedy and like the storytelling and the animation style too. I guess I like better. It's more like personable for me. I don't know, because I've always been a guy who like I grew up reading cartoons and reading comics and watching cartoons, so I guess I just have that like bias. But yeah, I like cartoons.
Is that where you got your inspiration to start drawing from too? Like, or was there any? Do you think there was like any particular one comic or cartoon where you were like, "That's badass. I want to imitate that"?
Yeah, I started drawing when I was 4 years old or 3 years old, like in kindergarten. Basically because I was reading like Captain Underpants. You ever read that?
Yeah, I remember Captain Underpants.
Yeah, that was like a huge inspiration for me, which is, like weird to say out loud, like, oh man, Captain Underpants, like that shit, like that's my childhood, bro. Like I was obsessed with those books, and like the way like the characters would make their own comics within the book, I would imitate them and make my own comics. And I still have some of them like in a box somewhere from when I was 4 years old. And I was telling Zarif this, I think, like, this shit was a comedy gold. If I read it right now, I would still laugh. I think I was funnier, like, as a kid than I am right now. But, like, yeah, that was a big inspiration, like, Captain Underpants and Garfield and Spider-Man and, like, stuff like that. Calvin and Hobbes, too. But a big inspiration, which is, like, ironic, was my older brother also used to draw in elementary school. I think he was in, like, the 5th grade. And I used to look up to him a lot. He's like 3 years older than me, so I would always like imitate his drawings and stuff. And just out of nowhere, he just stopped drawing, and I became like the artist, And now he's just like some loser like tech guy, and I'm the cool guy.
the artist out here.
Yeah,
that's great that you stuck with it, man. It's definitely an awesome skill. It's one that I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's because I feel like my artistic abilities were more musically inclined, and I never felt like I was particularly good at like the visual arts, like photography or arts and crafts, or like drawing, painting, that kind of thing. I feel like maybe it's one of those that like, and it's not to say I never tried. Like I did a few art classes, and I don't think I'm like terrible at it, but it's like, I really admire when somebody like sticks it through, has a passion for it, and actually like obviously put in the work to like have some solid skills, some creative, their own style, creative juices, actual like a good understanding of composition or like human proportions, that kind of thing. It's admirable, dude. It's admirable. I guess what I'm saying is like that's really cool.
Like the long-winded, like that's
the
pretty
long-winded
cool,
way of saying that's pretty cool, man. But yeah, it was because it's definitely a thing that like it never felt as natural to me to express artistic intention through like visual mediums like that.
Okay. So you mentioned music. Do you play stuff? Or do you sing? What do you do?
So I play guitar mostly. And I play a couple of other things too, but I would say that's my primary instrument. Is the thing that I enjoy the most. And well, actually, to go back to an earlier discussion, if you want to talk about how I've been coping during pandemic times, that has actually been super helpful. Just because I definitely had a period of time where I played sparingly. In college, after college, like I wasn't playing anywhere as much as I used to. I used to play all the time as a teenager. I would walk around the house with my guitar just like practicing. And so yeah, but being back here in a pandemic it started as a really conscious effort of me being like, okay, I'm going to restring my guitar, get the new strings on there, and just start like actually practicing and make it a conscious thing. And now it just has become a thing that like it's such a way to unwind, to de-stress, just to learn a new song or practice some old ones or just like practice technique. It's been great. It's been great.
That's really cool, man.
I know you sing, man. Do you play any instruments as well?
So I bought a guitar off my friend when I was like 15, and I had the intention of learning. I watched YouTube videos. I learned like 3 notes. I think it was like E, A, and like D or some shit. I learned like 5 notes. I'd try to like strum and stuff, but it would just be that kind of thing where I would just never do it consistently. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't do things unless I really want to. Like. When it comes to my creative stuff, it's in bursts, So if I have an idea for like art, I will do it right there and then. I'll spend like 7 hours doing something and I'll finish it. Same with like a video idea. I will spend like the entire day writing the script and then I'll save it for, I'll record and then the next day and then I'll edit like the following 2 weeks and I'll finish it. The guitar is one of those things where it's like, I try to learn it in a burst of energy, but you can't do that. That's the thing you have to learn over time and I can't do that,
Yeah, it is a commitment. That's true. I never thought about it that way, but like your bursts of energy for learning guitar better last you a few months.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna see any progress.
So, I don't think instruments are for me, man.
It is interesting. It does take a special kind of, I don't want to say dedication, but it is kind of that. Like whether you force yourself to do it or somebody forces you. Like if your parents told you to play an instrument, that happens as well. Luckily, that was not the case for me. I think I very much would have been a person who would have hated it if it had been imposed on me. But I think, just because I sought this out when I wanted it, and like you're saying, I do very much relate to the sentiment of like, I don't do things unless I really want to do them. And I think that's just, being cognizant of how you want to spend your time and the energy that you have in the day, right? If it's not a thing you need to do and you don't want to do it, there's probably something else that you could be doing that would make you happier. And it's just... So that's kind of how my approach... that's one of my approaches to things as well.
Okay. When did you start playing guitar?
That's a good question. When did I start?
Like as a young boy?
Yeah. Oh no, actually I remember now. I was 13 because so when I was 12, like I had started playing electric bass for a little bit because my oldest brother had started to play guitar at that time. And so I was just like, oh, I'll play bass and then we'll have like a little band. And it was fun, and it was a way to spend time together. Yeah. But then I also realized, like, over time, like, I enjoyed playing bass, but I found myself, like, picking up his guitar and just kind of messing with it more and more. So much so to the point that I was like, I think I actually might like guitar a little bit more. Like, it was fun, and I learned a lot from bass, but I don't know if, like, I'd like to pursue this other option as well. So that particular year for my birthday, I got a super good haul with the money that my aunts and uncles gave me. Because I don't know how your birthday gatherings were when you were a kid, but for me, it was very much like there came a point where I was just kind of like, I'd rather that the money that you're gonna spend on a gift, you just give me directly. Yeah. And then I can pick what I want. So that was a thing. And that particular year, they were feeling really generous. So, like the next day or like 2 days after my birthday, my mom and I went down to Guitar Center, and I bought my electric guitar with that birthday money, and she paid for my guitar amp. And then I just never looked back since. I still play. I own other guitars, and I have owned other guitars over the years. But my favorite is still the first one I bought.
Damn.
Still play with that one.
That's so cool, man. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I always wanted to play guitar, because when I was like, around that age, I was getting into like, rock music and stuff.
Right.
As every emo kid wants, like they want to be able to play guitar and stuff. I guess I don't know why I didn't like get a guitar. It might have been like, I can't really remember, but it might have been like a religious thing, because like in Islam, like people have like these weird discussions where like music is haram. Okay. Because it like distracts you from some shit. So, and my parents are like really religious, so that might have been a reason they never let me play instruments. Well, no, because my sister played like clarinet, I think, and violin. I don't know why I never got guitar. That's weird.
Was it specifically like related to the genre of music, perhaps, or like is it rock music? Was haram or?
No, it's like they say like, I don't even know. I don't even remember. It's been a long time since I've researched like Islamic stuff, And not necessarily rock music. I think it's more so just like if the lyrics are like inappropriate and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of rock music would have
inappropriate lyrics, so
maybe in that way it's connected.
Yeah, but I don't even know if that was the reason. Maybe I just didn't want to play guitar. I don't know. I can't even remember. I don't know. I was just a dumb kid who was like, ooh, Minecraft.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's more of an option to you now, and like I was saying earlier, like you clearly sing already. Which, by the way, I wanted to ask you: did you ever do like any formal training for singing?
No.
Damn.
I think the way I train is like I'll record something and I'll listen back to it and I'll cringe. Like this sounds bad. And even now, if I listen to some stuff that I've done, I can like. I'm not gonna jerk myself off, but like there's a cover me and Zarif did for like a Pierce the Veil song called She Makes Dirty Words Sound Pretty. Yeah. That song I sang very well on. Like I'll say that. But then there's like we did a Roxanne cover, and that song makes me cringe when I listen to it sometimes. There are certain parts where I wish I re-recorded them. Overall, I think it was good. Like I think Zarif is definitely getting way better at playing instruments and mixing and stuff, and I'm getting better at singing, but whenever I record stuff and I listen back to them, like that's so bad, like I gotta re-record that. And I think most people probably are like that when they record stuff. But I think that's just like how I learned singing, because I've never taken like chorus, and I've never like done it. I watch like some videos like sometimes like on singing and stuff, but it's usually like on screaming, because I want to learn how to scream. But that, I don't know, that's how I learned.
That's important, and especially for screaming, it's important to have proper technique so you don't totally mess up your your vocal cords over time. But first of all, I think it's just really professional behavior to like review the stuff you made. Even like with streaming, like going back and viewing VODs or old clips and saying like, okay, what could I have done better? Is I think is critical. But I also feel like it's good. It's like the duality of it. On one end, it hurts and it sucks to like listen to yourself or to your own music, but I think it can also be the way I try to look at it. I'm always just kind of like, well, if now I look back on it and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I could have done X, Y, or Z better, it's only because I feel like I must be getting better.
Right.
And so it's like, I would hate to look back at a recording and be like, damn, I really had it figured out that time. Yeah. And I feel like, because then it would just be like, oh no. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a really good way to say it. People say that all the time. Is like, if you don't cringe when you look back at stuff, then you haven't grown, And that's pretty true. Like, especially like in the case with anything, like if you look back at old art and you're not like, what the fuck is that? Like for me, if I see a drawing from like 3 years ago, like that's so like on my door and at home, I have like a bunch of shitty drawings I put up like for high school. I just have them on my door because I was like, this is kind of cool. I look back at them, they're like really shitty. And if I drew like that today, I'd be like disappointed in myself,
Right.
Same thing with like streaming or like videos or singing. Like you see your old content and it's bad in your eyes. Some people might like it, but it's bad to you and it's bad. And that's why you always strive to do better.
Right. I think the only time that gets problematic or like can actually really be an issue is if that fear of cringing when you look back is what prevents you from making content.
Oh, yeah.
If it stops you from actually doing the thing, that's an issue. But if not, then I think it's the journey of growth,
I think that plagues people that are new to something.
I think so too.
So the way I always think about it is like, the only reason I'm comfortable doing all this stuff is because I've done it for years, Even though I have like no success with it, like over the years, that's because I've deleted so much stuff, like, but I've still done it. I'm so comfortable with seeing myself on camera. I'm so comfortable with talking to myself because I've done it for so long. Someone new who is not used to this, they will try streaming. They will find it very hard to talk to themselves. They'll look back at it and they won't like the way they look on camera. They won't like the way their voice sounds. That's going to deter them from doing anything, Same thing with art. If they draw for the first time and they look and compare it to someone else, they'll be like, what am I doing?
Right.
It's a huge deterrence. But that's like for someone that's beginning. For someone like us, like, I don't know how long you've been streaming. You said like 2 years or something?
Yeah, 2 or 3. I don't remember if I started in 2017. No, it would have been 2017. I remember now. So about 3 years, yeah.
Someone like us, we've been doing it for a few years. Like, when we look back and criticize, it's not because we're like, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's too cringy. It's like, oh, I can't believe I was like that. I cannot do that now. I'll do it better. It's like a different form,
Yeah, that final, I'll do it better, it just makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Whether it like when you look back, is your internal monologue a self-defeating one or an encouraging one at the end of it? It's like, it's I'll do better versus, oh, what's the point if this is what it's gonna be like?
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting too, not just with streaming, but pretty much with anything. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, like, being 14 years old or 15 and playing concerts and how nervous I used to get that like I'd mess up or there's like the fear of failure or whatever. And while I was having this thought, I remembered another conversation I had years ago on my stream with a few people, and somebody had said, because somebody had been asking, like, what tips do you have for people trying to get into streaming? And I was giving them what I thought were some pretty fundamental stuff. and they were talking about specifically, well, how do you overcome like the stage fright or of it? And somebody else said that something that can be more helpful than you realize against stage fright is actually just kind of living your life, like just having life experience. Because through having life, because for me, the reason I brought up that like being 14, 15 years old in concerts and getting really nervous, it was the fear of failure that I would mess up and like embarrass myself in front of people that was like making me really stressed. But as I got older and lived my life and I failed at more things and my life kept going and things were okay and much more, much greater challenges came my way. Now, doing something like sitting in front of a camera and streaming or playing my guitar in front of people is kind of like, even if it goes bad, it's not going to plague me and it's not going to be the worst thing that happened ever in my life.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I think for maybe somebody who's trying to get into streaming, especially if you're young, and I'm talking like you're like late teens maybe, just consider waiting a few more years perhaps. Like there wouldn't be anything terrible about it if you just don't feel ready for it at that moment. Because I do think that there was a lot to be said. Like that comment during that discussion in my stream really resonated with me. The whole idea of like, being camera shy, having stage fright, that kind of stuff is like a fear of failure, of embarrassment in disguise. Mm-hmm. And just the more years you have to get exposed to that kind of thing and overcome it and build up more resilience against it, that when you do sit down for the first time, you're still going to be nervous, but you know that it's not permanent. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah. That's good advice. It's also weird because that fear of failure or like nervousness or anxiety can come and go with the most like different situations too. Like for me, like you said, like, you just live your life and you fail and then you get over stuff and then you're doing better. I think like there are some key moments I can pick out, or like key things that I've gone through that have helped me overcome some things. Like I went through this career development program, and in this program, you're basically put into like what is it called? Like a group of people. I don't know what the term is. Okay. And you basically meet with these guys like, it's kind of like a fake job. Like you go there like, 8 to 3 and not like 8 to 5, 8 to 3. And you do these like classes and you do these exercises like team building and stuff. And you always have to have, the center of attention will get on you eventually. And that was always like a big fear of mine because I've always been like socially awkward. But just doing that really helped me break out of my shell because we would have to do like presentations and stuff, and public speaking was a big part of it. And you would speak in front of like the entire, like everyone, which is like, 30 to 50 people sometimes. Public speaking in that regard. And then at community college, I also took a public speaking course. And that also really helped because like you're forced to talk in front of everyone, and that is like a very nerve-wracking thing for a lot of people. And I would always, the thing that I would say is I would always go first. I would raise my hand and I would volunteer every time to go first, and that would be the best feeling because you get it out of the way and you're just like you're just chill for the rest of it. And like you sweat, you're nervous at front, but then you're just chill. Doing those things got me so much better at like public speaking and speaking confidently and clearly, because like the person I was like 3 years ago, 5 years ago was completely different than the person I am now. And I think that's the same thing you were saying. It's like living through life, you would just become more confident, but for the most part,
Yeah, obviously it's not applicable. I didn't mean it to say that it's just applicable to everybody 100%,
right.
But I feel like there is something to be said for the fact that for many people it will be applicable, that it's just kind of like you're going to have a challenge and if you overcome it, or you're going to have experiences that put you in like you were saying, a public speaking course or a situation where you have no choice but to face a fear of failure or of embarrassment or deal with that anxiety. And you know, having those concrete memories prevents the hypothetical scenarios in your head from overwhelming you when you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, I have to do it. Oh no. If you have more times in your life where you can look back and just be like, I did it and I survived it. And even if something went wrong, maybe you had a bad presentation and it really sucked for that day or for the whole week, then eventually it stopped sucking. Like, you got over it. It was okay. And I think that kind of like building that thought pattern, that, you know, neural pathway in your brain that doesn't immediately lead to public speaking equals death or something like that, is instead of like, no, actually, because of memories we have, public speaking equals great discomfort. Then it equals mild discomfort. Then it just equals discomfort. And like, and it just goes from there, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like a desensitization to it.
That's really true. And ironically enough, at a certain point, I almost started liking public speaking. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say I like it now because that was back then. I was like in the grind. I was public speaking all the time, like in front of those guys. Mm-hmm. Not really anymore. Like, when you fall off, you're just like, I don't want to do that anymore. But I feel like the more you do something, the more you grow to like it. Well, obviously depends on what you're doing. But,
right.
You know what I mean? And I was gonna say, like I was mentioning, like, it's weird how like some certain scenarios cause you to have anxiety. Which is like weird. So like, I stream like every week. I stream like 3 times, whatever. And generally it'll be like 20, 30, 10 people watching, and there's people are chatting and stuff, and I'm broadcasting myself live on the internet. Like, I can see my stream, and like I'm on webcam, I'm on mic, I'm making a fool of myself. But then I do this group project in one of my classes, and I'm just so nervous for no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's so bizarre how like these things, it's the same thing, but it's so different.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just the social context is actually way different. Mm-hmm. Where it's just kind of like, like to how you said it. You can go on your stream and like make a fool of yourself, but I feel like in that context, there's that one quote, I forget who it's by, but it's just kind of like, we are fools whether we dance or not, so we might as well dance. And it's just kind of like, yeah, you can, in that social context, that's one where you can just kind of be like, yeah, even if I'm making a fool out of myself, this can be fun, and it's and I can laugh about this situation too, and other people laugh and enjoy it, and it's fine. But I think the social context, unfortunately, the professional world does not have that great of a sense of humor by and large. So it is it just takes on an entirely different dimension there, where it's a lot harder to get into that mindset where that there are people who can make decisions based on how you act,
right,
that have practical consequences for you.
Yeah, that's damn, bro. Is that part of the linguistic stuff, the social stuff?
Oh, the sociolinguistics? No, yeah. I mean. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it could be if you kept it only to language.
Oh, is this like psychology or some shit that we're going into right now?
I don't know. I felt like it was a little bit more philosophy type deal, but
okay.
but no, I mean, yeah, I mean, full circle to go back to socioling, like, that definitely was a thing that was concerning to me when I was starting this master's, because I was like, okay, for the past while now, every time I sit in front of a computer and have my camera on, I'm just like, oh, fuck this shit, oh my god, son of a bitch, that, and I'm just kind of like, I don't want to have that slip out in front of a professor. Like,
yeah, what's up, you fucking loser? Oh, I mean, Mr.
Yeah. And I was really concerned about that for the first like week and a half, but it was fine. It never happened. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's a really well-known case of like, yeah, you wouldn't use swears necessarily in your professional or educational context, but it's kind of like, not only is it acceptable, it might even be encouraged in your Twitch context, right? So So yeah, that could be a social link stuff. Yeah. Full circle, man.
Full circle. And with that, I think we can wrap it up. This has been such a great conversation, dude. I feel like I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, dude, I didn't even realize that we've been talking for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
Felt like 30 minutes, bro.
It doesn't feel like that. It's been 2 hours, yeah. And at the risk of going any longer, I will artificially stop us here.
All right. Is there an outro we do, or?
Not really. You just kind of say bye, but I didn't even plug you. I'll plug you in the intro. I'll do the intro.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, man, for taking the time out of your day.
No, dude, thanks for thinking of me and thanks for having me on here. It was a real blast. Yeah, no, dude, it's been great. Let me know when you print it, and I'll send my folks your way too.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds good, bro.
Thank you all so much for listening to the end. If you chose to, I know this one was really long. The ending was kind of awkward because there was a bit of miscommunication between me and BlooM when he was asking if we do anything, and I was like, nah, we don't do anything. He was like, okay. So I think he assumed that I meant like literally we don't do anything, but usually we say goodbye. So yeah, thanks for listening. This one was really fun, and goodbye. Be fun and goodbye. Be fun and goodbye. Be fun and goodbye. Be fun and goodbye.